Hello, welcome to the Cinema Savvy Movie Podcast, the channel for film reviews, discussions, and everything in between. I'm Chris Garner, joined with my co-host Tayte in the Hour, and today we're reviewing 2016's long time in the making Marvel superhero film, Deadpool, directed by Tim Miller. This is going to be a spoiler-free review at the beginning, and then we'll move into spoilers later on, and we'll let you know when we get to that, because there's a lot I really don't want to give away in this review, because there are so many jokes that you just have to be in that theatre to see. So
can we just start by saying go see this film?
Yeah, just that's the review over, everyone. Just less
that's
than
the spoiler-free section.
Yeah. God, I had so much fun at this movie. But yeah, let's get into our review for Deadpool.
Mr. Wilson, you've recently been diagnosed with terminal cancer.
We can fight this.
What if I told you we can cure you and give you abilities most men only dream of?
I'd say that you sound like an infomercial, but not a good one, like Slap Chop, more shake weighty.
If I never see you again, know that I love you.
When I'm finished, your mutated cells will heal anything. But you still think we're making you a superhero. We're making you a super slave. Oh, come on.
You gonna leave me all alone here with Jose Canseco? Whatever they did to me made me totally indestructible and completely
No.
unfuckable.
You look like the inside of other people's assholes.
Time to make the chimichangas. So yeah, this film, long time in the making. I remember seeing X-Men Origins Wolverine. I believe it was 2009. I'm just currently checking that now. Yeah, 2009.
Yeah.
And we got a form of Deadpool in that movie, played once again by Ryan Reynolds, and everyone knows, this movie knows, that was just a terrible depiction of that character. Yeah. And then so many years later, we finally get the Deadpool that we want, and I want to say, personally, is probably one of the most faithful adaptations of a comic book character I've ever seen.
Yeah. No, I'd say that as well. I mean, he perfectly resembles what Deadpool should be, and I know that it was an R in the US, and it was only it was a 15 in the UK, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
I'd say it was borderline, from watching it, but that's what the comics were like, and I would say that this was extremely accurate. I mean, even the voice, that's how I imagine his voice would be.
Oh, so, yeah, definitely, and I'm trying to think now, this may be the only time I'm aware of that a character has been played by the same actor and has been rebooted using the same actor. Which is...
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember an instance where that happened, but sort of before going into this one, the trailers are coming out for this thing, and I don't know loads about the Deadpool character, as many as some people do. I'm aware of him and sort of the meta, breaking the fourth wall style humour. He knows he's in a comic book, everything like that, and the look of the character. But trailers were coming out, and the jokes really, for some reason, just weren't hitting for me. And I thought, oh, this might be bad. I was looking at the budget as well. At the time, it was done on a 58mm budget, which is really small for a superhero property. And I just thought, this looks like a fan-made movie, but for some reason, when you get to the film, I cannot remember the last time I laughed this much in a movie. I just had a grin on my face beginning to end. And what's cool is that we live in an age now where comic book movies like this, or Guardians of the Galaxy, with characters that maybe not so many people are aware of or know a lot about, I mean, they're absolutely making a killing. I went to see this... I went to see it on a Friday night, 7:10 showing in the evening, and I got there, I was like, I would like a ticket for Deadpool, please, and they said, we're sold out. The screening was sold out, so I went for the 8 o'clock showing. I sat down, took my place, and that screening also got to a stage where it was sold out as well. Yeah,
I mean, when I went to go see my screening, we showed up, I have Unlimited at Cineworld, so I thought, oh, okay, easy, I could sit anywhere. I had to sit off to the side, off to the right, at the front of the screen. And I was thinking, my God, this isn't going to be the best experience. But in the end, it was really it was okay. It was fine. It didn't take away from the film.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm currently reading on Variety.com here that Deadpool pulled in $47.5 million on Friday. and it's currently looking for 130 mil opening weekend.
Yeah.
Which is insane, and I think it's actually up there. I'll put the article in the description below, but I think it says on there it's up in one of the top superhero opening weekends ever.
I think it's the highest ever opening weekend for an R-rated film.
Yeah.
Or, sorry, box office. Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool earns record 47.5 million in a Friday.
Yeah, which is insane. Like, I got there and I was like, I know that Deadpool's fairly popular, mostly in sort of like the hardcore fan base. He's big in pop culture in the whole Marvel universe, but I couldn't even entertain the idea that there would be 2 sold out screenings back to back of this movie when I went to see it. It was just absolutely unfathomable. But you brought up a good point with the R rating as well. I remember when, again, this has been in production for absolutely ages, and it's been discussed pretty much since X-Men Origins Wolverine came out in 2009 that they wanted to do a Deadpool solo movie. And Ryan Reynolds always expressed that he wanted to come back. He loves this character, and that easily shows on screen as well. They were rumours that they wanted to do a PG-13 cut of this movie, and after seeing this film as we got it can only be an R rating, and I'm so glad that whether it was the director or the script writers or the studio, whoever it was who finally decided to, let's go with this, let's just keep it an R. It shows balls for the studio, and what I like about this film as well is that there really doesn't appear to be that much studio meddling in it. And to be honest, like the examples of films I can think of which have had studio involvement, like Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, they never do well, and the projects always seem to fail after that and need rebooting. So it's refreshing to see a superhero film like this that is small scale. And I actually, after I've seen it, I approve that it's got below 100 mil budget, because I think they worked wonders with the budget they did have. Yeah. It's just nice to see a director and scriptwriters that love this character, understand the character, and can make their own movie. And I'm sure I can pretty much vouch for everyone in my cinema, but everyone loved it. The crowd was going absolutely wild throughout this thing, laughing beginning to end, and it's a really refreshing experience when you can go to a movie and have that reaction.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, when I was in the cinema, everyone was cracking up. Everyone was laughing, and it's a different experience when that happens. I mean, you almost don't expect it.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be quite only a few people laughing, a couple of inside jokes there, but loads of people were laughing. I mean, there was some parts. I'm not going to say this specific point, but I think it was the Ripley joke.
Yeah.
Where absolutely everyone was laughing because they all know who that is, and referencing other films which are very famous, and in fact referencing itself, which it does a lot of times. Some of the best moments were when it did reference itself. I'd say it's a completely different film experience. Breaking the fourth wall can only ever really be done in comedy properly, I'd say. Maybe unless it's a proper drama like House of Cards or something like that. Those are the only 2 situations where you'd see that, and this played off it perfectly. Yeah,
definitely. And with fourth wall breaking, especially in something like this, I'm always torn on it. It definitely does work for Deadpool, but because this is the 8th installment in the X-Men franchise, as it says on the Wikipedia page, and it definitely is because it completely ties into those movies, but you sort of want to go into the X-Men franchise, suspend disbelief, and go, this is actually taking place. So when a character like Deadpool walks in and he knows he's in a movie, he knows that like the studio is involved in the X-Men franchise, it does kind of make you go back to X-Men and go like, you know what I mean? It's difficult for me to explain, but it completely works in this movie. The comedy is very quick. There were some moments even in this film where 2 jokes would come right after the other, and people were still laughing at the first one that I couldn't necessarily hear the second joke coming. So I think this film definitely gets repeat viewings. I would love to see this movie again.
Definitely.
There were some jokes that didn't quite hit for me, or it wasn't my style of comedy, but that's not a bad thing, because give it 10 seconds and another joke's just going to come flying at you, and you're going to be completely back on board again. So hats off to the writers, or the real heroes, as I believe they were credited as at the start of the film. I just, all across the board, how this film came together, the studio giving it the shot, and people are responding to it, and that's nice. And I'm not going to spoil what actually happens, but there is an after-credit scene which does tease a sequel in some way.
Oh, no, that after-credit scene.
It's
by now, everyone knows you stay behind in Marvel films.
But people were still leaving our cinema. I was like,
we had 3 people leave, and then they realised what was happening, turned round and sat back down again. They thought, oh, we're getting up. Oh, the lights haven't turned on. Oh, yeah, after-credit scene, yeah. And someone actually shouts out, dude, end-credit scene.
Yeah.
They all sat back down again. So it's almost become like a Marvel staple. And if they do have no end-credit scene at all in one Marvel film, I think there would be a riot.
Yeah, and X-Men have finally started doing that now because they didn't have one for quite a lot of the X-Men films, and now they've
But they did have one for Days of Future Past.
Yes, they did, obviously, for Apocalypse.
Teasing Apocalypse.
Yeah. What else can we talk? Let's get into the performances. We've got to talk Ryan Reynolds in this.
Let's talk the Reynolds man.
Ryan Reynolds, probably one of the unluckiest actors in film history. Like,
yeah.
I haven't seen many of his projects. I've seen like scenes from them, but the guy's not a bad actor. He honestly really isn't. He gets behind the role, he gets behind the character, and he does the job he's required to do. He definitely has a lot of charisma. He has so much charisma in this movie, and a character like this needs that. And it's just nice to see him get a second shot, because we've seen him speak out publicly that he really cares about this character and this property, and now to see it done right, him playing it, I think this is going to put him back on the map. And I don't know if you got this impression as well, as it is tied into the X-Men franchise, and I'm not going to give anything away, but a certain famous X-Men character does keep getting brought up quite often.
Yeah.
I think with the success of this movie, if they do actually push him into the X-Men franchise, after Hugh Jackman leaves, I think this will be the new sort of poster boy of the X-Men franchise. I don't know if you thought that, or...
I have a feeling that they've been trying to get James McAvoy front and centre for a long time now.
Yeah.
And I think they'd probably focus more on that, and I feel like the poster person at the moment for the X-Men franchise is probably Mystique.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie,
yeah.
But she's kind of been brought forward. I know Jennifer Lawrence is a very famous actress at the moment. I can't really see Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool being a staple of the X-Men franchise for obvious reasons for what happens in the film.
Yeah.
But he could make a cameo in a couple of films, and I don't know. I mean, if Fox are able to make a deal with Marvel, maybe he might show up in Infinity War.
That would... Oh, if that happened, that would be amazing. But
you just want him to appear on screen and go, check a load of these guys.
I just want
like
Deadpool to appear in every movie now. I'm not going to lie. I came out of this film and I was like, this is probably one of the most likeable anti-heroes I've just seen in anything. He's just so much fun.
Yeah. To be honest, the film that I accredit him to good acting in is probably Buried.
Yeah.
I mean, it is literally him in a box talking to a phone for an hour and a half. I mean, it's quite good acting in that. And then he had the horrible, horrible Green Lantern.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the possibly even worse, if not seen, The Proposal. I can't remember where... Proposal came first, sorry. Which was even worse. And yes, I have seen that film. And dear Lord. Hopefully Deadpool, he gets stapled down to that character now.
Yeah, and I hope he does. Yeah, and I mean, he's one of the only actors. Well, I think there's a few if you think about it, but like Halle Berry comes to mind, that has played a character in the Marvel and DC universes. But yeah, Green Lantern. So bad. And again, it wasn't his fault. He played the character as that was written. But it's nice to see him finally land a role that he loves, and he's fantastic during it. He brings, and this was one of my concerns before going in as well. With the kind of character Deadpool is, where the humour is so quick and he's full of one-liners and sarcasm, I thought this has the potential to get old really quick.
Yeah,
like I think I've gone on record and said this, where Deadpool for me always worked is like a shot of adrenaline. Like in short films, in small doses, he's hilarious. But if you give him an hour and a half, 2-hour movie, that might just you'll run out of steam very quickly with the character. But that wasn't the case with him, because they did something which I hope they did. They gave him a little bit of heart as well. It's all still done in a very tongue-in-cheek way, but in his backstory, I guess this isn't giving anything away because it's in the trailers, but where his body's just riddled with cancer, and he's in this relationship, and they're trying to work through it, and he's just a broken man basically. And we do get some scenes where there is a bit more emotional weight to it. It is pretty much often countered with a quick quip or something like that, but I think that was necessary. And if we are going to get onto the relationship side of it as well, this is one of the strongest and just most endearing pairings I've ever seen in a superhero film.
Yes, this is the only pairing that I really care about in any superhero film. Usually with a superhero film,
like
especially whenever I think of superhero like partnerships, I always think of Superman, Lois Lane, and then Spider-Man and his multiple girlfriends that he has.
Absolute player.
Those are the two ones that I kind of think of, and in both of them, they haven't been done right. They really haven't.
I thought Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone were pretty good in the Amazing Spider-Man films.
Actually,
that was probably the only saving grace.
First, I'd say in the Amazing Spider-Man film.
Yeah.
Not in the second one.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. Film like relationships from that just don't seem to be good on screen. They just don't seem to work. I feel like the wackiness of the comic books, and recently with we got to throw in darkness and stuff like that, it makes it very hard for you to believe a relationship. Whilst this one actually feels genuine because this film is filled with humor. Yeah. Just like I felt a connection in Guardians of the Galaxy with Star-Lord and Gamora. That might happen in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I haven't read the comics, so I won't comment on that any further than that. But it's just, relationships don't work without some kind of humour and mutual attraction, and nothing's really done it that way in any of the other superhero films.
No, and it was just, their chemistry in this film was just perfect. And
it was.
Morena Baccarin, I think her name is. She's been in quite a lot of stuff. She was in Firefly. She was in V, which is where I first saw her, and she's currently in Gotham as well. Really great actress, and it's a line that was released in a clip, I believe, with Ryan Reynolds and her in the film, where he says, "Your crazy matches my crazy." And you completely see that in the film, from their first meeting in the film all the way up until their last. They just work off each other perfectly. There's a hilarious montage in this movie when it goes through the years of their relationship, which I'll get into in the spoiler section. Was one of my favourite jokes in the film. And yeah, they are just a sweet couple. You completely believe it. It's sort of a relationship that's originally just based on physical attraction and sex, but then as it gets into it and it goes into sort of his cancer story a bit more, you find out that no, there is actually a real connection there. And I guess now would be a good time as any to sort of go into the plot of it if you want to.
I have got the IMDb, the trusty IMDb up.
As always.
A former Special Forces operative turned mercenary is subjected to a rogue experiment that leaves him with accelerated healing powers, adopting the alter ego Deadpool.
Yes, and so at its core, you probably couldn't get a simpler story even if you tried.
No.
It's a simple revenge movie, and the motivation is love and fixing one's face up.
Yes.
Pretty much. And you know what? I'm not even going to hold that against the film. Any other film like this, I would be going, there's not much character in it, the plot's simplistic, but for Deadpool, you kind of want something like that. And it's nice to see a superhero film that's not completely based on this villain wants to take over the world, or has a huge army that he wants to just conquer the galaxy with, or anything like that. It's just a dude who wants revenge on the guy who fucked up his face and kidnapped his girlfriend.
Yep.
And it completely works. And I guess we can talk about TJ Miller as well. He plays sort of the sidekick and slash best friend, I guess.
I would say so.
Ryan Reynolds' character, Wade Wilson.
All he does is insult him.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of amazing. You've seen it in the trailer with the whole, your face looks like Freddy Krueger, face fucked a topographical map of Utah, and he has loads more quips like that in the film. I did quite like their relationship, and there's one line, I don't want to spoil it, but it's towards the end of the movie where Deadpool asks if TJ Miller wants to come with him on the mission. and that was one of the biggest laughs for me. I sort of want to talk about one of my only complaints in this film, and that is the villain, Ajax, played by Ed Skrein. In a film like this, you don't want a completely well-written, fleshed-out villain. You just sort of want a bad guy, but I do think that he was the thing that let the film down most. I'm not an Ed Skrein fan, and in a film like this, you want a villain that does have as much personality and charisma as the protagonist. And to me, he was just a complete wet blanket in this movie. There was no tension in him at all. In all the fight scenes with Deadpool and him, there was no, as I said, there's no tension or anything like that. You knew Deadpool was going to get out of it. And I think that kind of let the film down a little bit. I'm
not going to lie, but it took me a while to figure out, like what his powers were.
Yeah.
I mean, it says that, he can't feel anything. And, like, you just think, well, here's my problem with the film. If he gets slashed down the leg, which does happen at one point in the film, wouldn't that sever the muscles and not allow him to move?
He's still going to bleed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they sort of...
He doesn't have rapid healing as well, so it just makes no sense. Like, in one scene, he basically gets immobilized. Like, any normal person wouldn't be able to walk. And I know that his power is strength and that.
Agility, wasn't it? Like
Agility,
reflexes, I think.
Reflexes, and the ability to not feel pain. But even so, you wouldn't be able to walk. Your leg would just go floppy. And he doesn't have rapid healing. That's obviously shown because in one scene he's being stitched up. So, what's all that about?
Yeah, that was a bit cloudy. And also cloudy was his actual motivation. So he's sort of taking these people and giving them these powers, and I guess it's inferred that he wants to sell these people off to the government or the army or something for super soldiers. It's never really developed a lot at all, and I think that was sort of the side that I was sort of left in the dark the most. I guess you could sort of chalk it up to, well, it's Deadpool, it's fun, he's a bad guy, he serves his purpose, just go along with it. But as this takes place in the X-Men universe, which it does, I would like to have seen them handle that a little bit more. I guess it's sort of a sub-company of the team that took Wolverine and gave him his adamantium, right? Like this whole kind of Stryker complex. Because how it was framed, where you've got Ryan Reynolds strapped to the gurney, and they've got all these tubes with like blue liquid going in it.
I was actually expecting, from that scene, I was expecting Wolverine references coming from him.
Yeah.
But I don't think they really did too much about it.
No, they didn't. Although there were lots of other Wolverine references throughout this movie. And also sort of like going hand in hand with Ed Skrein, Gina Carano as Angel Dust. She just really didn't do anything for me as a henchwoman or as literally a henchwoman, or as a villain in general, really. As I said, I haven't read any Deadpool comic book or anything like that, so I had no idea who Ajax or Angel Dust was or anything like that. And I guess the two other characters we can talk about, and then we'll sort of just go into our favourite moments or any other problems we have.
Is the two X-Men.
The two X-Men,
So we've
absolutely.
got, I'm going to do this, Brianna Hildebrand playing Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Oh, such a cool name. Such a cool name, which is referenced in the film.
Yeah.
And she's a newcomer to the X-Men franchise. We haven't seen her. And thankfully, one of my favourite X-Men of all time, Colossus.
Yes.
Visually, he does look
Days of
completely
Future
different.
Past, wasn't he?
What, sorry?
He was in Days of Future Past, Colossus.
Yeah,
wasn't
he was. Yeah, he played by a different actor. The actor they had in Days of Future Past. Colossus also, I think he made his first appearance in X-Men 2. Was played by a different guy. I can't remember his name now at all. But for this one,
having a look now.
I think he was asked to
Daniel Cudmore.
Yeah, I think he was asked to return to this one as well, but I think he turned it down. Maybe they thought that he wasn't a good enough actor to carry this, because this is the most dialogue we've ever seen Colossus have in any of these movies.
Daniel Cudmore played Colossus in X-Men 2, X-Men The Last Stand, and X-Men Days of Future Past.
Yeah. And I guess it's not much of a stretch, because in this we only see him in his metal form. We know that his regular form is a human, and then he sort of switches into this, which did make me question as to why, when we see him, Every single, even when he's in situations where there's no battle happening or there's any kind of peril like that, he is constantly in his metal form. But we know the reason for that is that they didn't need to get an actor on screen or anything like that. They could just add it in after in the effects and post production. But I think
I might know why Daniel Cudmore is not in this film.
Why is that?
He is working on Warcraft, which is now completed.
Oh, fair, yeah.
So that makes sense. Especially if I believe he's the main orc character, I can only assume.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, it wasn't too much of a stretch because, as I said, we haven't really heard Colossus talk all that much in the previous X-Men films. We know what X-Men's like with its current continuity. It's sort of all over the place. None of the films really kind of link with each other. But it was nice seeing Colossus because he has always been one of my favourite X-Men, and we get to see him properly in action as well, like we did in Days of Future Past. Visually, he does look different. I think in this film, he does look a lot closer to how his comic book character does, where he's sort of got like the ridged arms and the flat haircut top of his head, whereas in the other films he was just sort of like a Silver Surfer kind of character where it was just a guy just completely silver. But he does get a lot of jokes in this, and as said, that was one of my favourite things in this movie, is that it is tying it into the X-Men franchise. They are
I'd say the interactions between all three of those characters throughout the entire film felt like a nice happy family, didn't it?
Oh yeah, and it's Colossus is trying to recruit Deadpool into the X-Men, but you see this movie and you're sort of on Deadpool's side, like, no, don't join the X-Men, just stay as you are, because if they did ever get Deadpool as the main one in the X-Men, I have no idea how those films would turn out, to be honest. So just keep Deadpool to his own thing. I guess we could talk about the action, perhaps.
Yeah. Wait a sec. No, I would like to talk about one last person.
Okay, sure.
Karan Soni, who played the character of Dopinder.
Oh, God, yes. Yeah.
He is going to be in the new Ghostbusters film.
Oh,
as Benny / Chinese delivery man.
Oh, yes.
He hasn't been in much. He was in Goosebumps earlier on this year.
Yeah.
Other than that, he hasn't really been in much, and I really enjoyed his performance. The little time he had on screen, he just lit up the screen completely, and the interactions that he had with Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool was just hilarious. And I'm pretty sure that those two were probably friends off scene as well, because they just seemed to get along so well on screen.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most enjoyable side characters I think I've ever seen in a film, and I really, really hope that he comes back in the sequel. Yeah, and he's a character that I can see cropping up in like all the future ones with Deadpool as well. So that was really cool. Yeah, absolutely. But let's talk about the action for a bit. So we got that test footage that was leaked a good few years back now, I guess, like 2 years ago or more. And that sort of showed us what they were intending to do with Deadpool, and that test footage alone, which I hope makes it onto the Blu-ray when this gets a release. If anyone saw that, it is quite a neat precursor to this movie, right before the title credits. So the action is very fast-paced. A lot of it is effects-based, which there were a few moments where the effects do look kind of shaky, but you just chalk that up to the budget and what they actually had to do with all that money to get it off the ground. In many ways, it does feel like a sort of fan film, like a high-budget fan film of Deadpool, which is not a bad thing.
No.
But even the ending is incredible, some of the stuff they do, and I don't know if this isn't so much a spoiler. Where they fight at the end, it almost looked like an aircraft carrier, and it looked like one of the ones from the Avengers films.
Yeah. It looked like a abandoned ship, basically.
Yeah. And I was watching this movie and I was thinking, is this a tie-in to Avengers in like a subtle way?
I'm pretty sure. If you do know what that carrier was, please tell us.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have a look to see what it says on Wikipedia.
Sure, but no, the action is just fast-paced. It's gory, it's bloody, but it's done in a very over-the-top, stylized way, which is the best kind of art. You could definitely get away with a lot more if you do it with that sort of tongue-in-cheek nature. If I'm going to compare the violence or just the general tone of the film to anything else, I would say that Kick-Ass or Kingsman, either of those two definitely fits sort of in line with this. The very self-referential, over the top it obviously is a comic book styled violence. You have Deadpool in this movie cutting people's heads off and then kicking the severed head into another guy's face. It's just so much fun, and the violence as well. There's moments where he's addressing the audience. It's absolutely everything you want. If you are a fan of Deadpool, you've obviously seen this movie already, but the meta humor in it just works so well, whether he's referring to other films, whether he's referring to the X-Men franchise, whether he's referring to actors in the X-Men franchise, or just general stuff, pop culture references. It's all in this movie. I think there's a style of humor for everyone in this.
And I'm not going to lie, but this film does have a few cameos in there.
Yeah.
We safe to say that? Yeah?
Yeah.
The best one is obviously Stan Lee.
Yeah. Which
by
we're
far.
not going to spoil here,
that.
no. But it's
Jesus,
probably
no.
one of his best cameos, without a doubt.
I think it is his best cameo yet.
Yeah. So I guess we've been going for about half hour now, so I think we've still got a lot of stuff to talk about in the spoilers, so I guess now we sort of give our positives, negatives, and just general sum up of the movie. So Tate, take it away. Would you recommend Deadpool?
Oh, totally. Best superhero film of the year so far.
Yep.
And to be honest, with my predictions for how superhero films are going to go by the end of the year, this might be the best superhero film this year. And I know it's a huge film for superhero films, but genuinely, this is a solid 8, 9 out of 10, pushing up towards the perfect. And I don't know, if they got the villain right, then this would be a perfect superhero film, and that's scary. But I already have comments on the quality of films coming out later on this year.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether I commented on this channel, but if you want me to, I will talk about them when we do the Oscar live stream.
Yeah.
But yeah, I seriously recommend this film. The villain is a villain, very bog standard. I mean, even in the descriptions here I'm reading on Wikipedia, they say the word goons a lot. So obviously they're very bog standard, like henchmen and stuff like that. So other than that, it's a brilliant film. It's a good story. It'll make you laugh. It'll make you feel sad at one point, and then it'll make you laugh again literally 2 seconds later. There are some moments where you think, wow, that's wrong, and there are some moments where you think, wow, that's so goddamn right, and that is what you want from a film.
Definitely, and I mean, if anyone's been following the marketing of this film, this is without a doubt some of the smartest marketing I've ever seen, whether it's the Valentine's Day poster of the film that was released, which, you know what, in the grand scheme of things, kind of still does make sense to the movie.
No, that does make sense.
At its core, it is a love story. But I just think there's something for everyone in this movie. If you're a superhero fan, action fan, comedy, even like a fan of romantic movies, I think it's got ingredients of everything in this movie. It is without a doubt just one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in the theatre. I can't remember the last time I laughed this much in the theatre. Tim Miller's first film he's ever directed. It's really promising, and I'm sure if he gets a bigger budget, well, you know the sequel's going to get a bigger budget. But
the sequel's already been greenlit.
Yeah.
Like, it was greenlit opening day.
And this was just a movie I thought was just a real gamble. Like, when I heard they were going to make it, I guess Guardians of the Galaxy was the one before that, where I was like, not many people really know of these characters. And then the film's a massive success, so I mean, you predicted a while back that you thought this would be the year where superhero films die.
Yes, that's what I'm... Do you want me to go into that now slightly?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, you may as well.
So, this is the year that superhero films die. And it's gone exactly how I thought it would start off with. What I originally said was, Deadpool will be a good film, people will enjoy it. I think that Batman vs Superman is going to be a financial win, but a critical flop, just like Jurassic World. I feel like Civil War, people will still say, oh, well, Winter Soldier was better. I have that feeling from it. They're going to say it's a bit too... I don't know, it just won't be as good as previous other Marvel films. And I feel like slowly throughout the year, Suicide Squad, it won't be as good as people want it to be. It'll be too dark and too funny mixed together. I mean, this worked being dark and funny, but I feel like DC and Suicide Squad, they're going to go proper, full on, oh, we're going to make this film really dark, but then we're going to make you laugh at one point, and that'll make it a comedy. That's what I think they're aiming for. That's what the angle I think is going to be. And I feel like by the end of this year, people are going to be tired of superhero films. They're not going to want it anymore. And I feel like Marvel have understood that because they're only planning up to 2020 something, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Whether they'll
whilst
probably...
DC are planning way ahead into the future when people won't care about comic book films anymore, and Marvel have played this perfectly. I mean, they set out their 3 phases or whatever, so by the time that's done, they can just live off TV shows on Netflix.
I was just going to say, Marvel are smart because they've already moved, to TV and Netflix and everything like that, and those shows are fantastic as well. Daredevil and Jessica Jones both.
Although I have to say, Flash is pretty good, and Arrow is pretty good as well. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about DC's Legends of Tomorrow, but I'd say that by the end of this year, we'll be sick and tired of superhero films, and just to finish this off, I reckon the next stage is we're going to get practical effects back into movies a lot more, a little bit less CGI on the box office. People will want to see more practical effects. People will care about how the movies are made a little bit more because of Mad Max Fury Road and films like that. And I also predicted a comeback for horror films, which starts this year.
Mm. Yeah, definitely.
And I think that'll probably start with what's the horror film coming out?
They're doing a film called Conjuring 2.
Conjuring 2. There are also more horror films coming out, aren't there?
I'm sure there are.
Of them somewhere.
It's nice to see that. Well, I guess like Poltergeist came out last year, and so they're still sort of doing remakes. But it'd be cool to see horror come back. But what I think that Doctor Strange will be the real tell at the end of this year, because again, that's a character that not many people know. So if that is a big success, then I think that superhero films will just continue to stay for at least the next couple of years. But
we've got a new Purge film coming out, which it'll be okay. It looks like it's got some promise over the last Purge film. We've also got a kind of horror film in Cloverfield. Horror thriller.
I got a trailer for that again at the start of Deadpool. That looks fantastic.
Yes, that does look fantastic. And then we've also got a film about the Amityville horror.
Yeah. So it'll be nice to see horror make a comeback, because it has just been sort of dead for years.
And I feel like I genuinely think that it might have a comeback. I mean, oh god, Saw Legacy, Friday the 13th, and Five Nights at Freddy's are the films that we're looking forward to in 2017.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Oh, sorry. That's early 2017. We've also got World War Z 2.
Yay?
Maybe. I feel like some of these are going to hit. Yeah. I really do.
Well, World War Z was a big hit. But anyway, I'll bring it back to Deadpool, just sort of round it out. I think this film... Now, meta-humor's been done before. We've seen it in films like Scream and just Cabin in the Woods. It's been done before, but... I don't know. I think what people like about this movie, it just feels a bit refreshing. I mean, the last few superhero films we've seen, especially Avengers: Age of Ultron, I think audiences are aware now that each film that comes out is just sort of the same cookie cutter plot. Just slap a different skin on it. It's the same story. So I think audiences were getting turned off of superhero films because of that, and it's just nice when a hurricane can just sweep through a superhero film like the character of Deadpool, just completely deconstruct it, take it apart, have fun with it, and be something a bit different. And I think that's what audiences are going to take away from this movie more than anything else. It's got some really great performances in there, not counting Ed Skrein, I'm sorry. So for me, the weakest part of this film was its villain, but there is plenty more in this movie to make up for that. It's got some fantastic action, the performances are hilarious, non-stop jokes, one of the funniest scripts I've ever seen, and I actually want the sequel now. I wish Deadpool 2 was coming out next week. I can't even imagine waiting like 2 or 3 years before the next one comes out, but yeah, I would give it a high rating as well. It's a cliche thing to say, but it's not winning any Oscars, but it just has fun with the property, what it's doing. It's completely self-aware. It knows what it wants to be, and it's a success at that. So I would give it about an 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10 for me if I'm going to give it a numeric value. So definitely go and see this movie, because I think there's a lot in there that people are going to enjoy.
I didn't ask to be super, and I'm no hero. But when you find out your worst enemy is after your best girl, the time has come to be a fucking superhero.
Right
straight up Main Street.
So that'll do it for our spoiler-free section. Now we can finally get
spoilers.
into the nitty-gritty of this. We're going to talk about some of our favourite jokes because, oh boy, there are so many.
Should we start off with our favourite joke from the film?
Yes, let's...
So you do yours first and then I'll say mine.
Okay, mine was in the scene where Colossus is dragging Deadpool away and he says, "I'm taking you back to the professor." And Deadpool goes, "McAvoy or Stewart? I get confused nowadays." That to me was just...
Yeah.
It hit that joke and I was like, okay, I don't need any more convincing. This film's amazing. The fact that it got to that level of humour. And it was quite telling as well because I was listening for how many laughs I could hear around the audience, because you knew that the people that were laughing with that are the kind of guys like me that follow all these superhero films and are well knit into it and everything like that. So that was probably my favourite joke out of the whole movie.
I have to say my favourite joke was another interaction between Deadpool and Colossus. This time it was at the X-Men's house, and he says, "Why is there only you two? It's almost like the studio didn't have enough money to pay for more X-Men."
Yeah. It's true. It's
I
true.
think that got the biggest laugh out of everyone on screen.
Oh,
I feel
absolutely.
Like, in our screening.
I don't know what kind of structure we've got for this spoiler section. I just want to kind of go through it because this is the first time we've talked about this movie just together. Yeah. Can we talk about the opening credits? It was
I quite liked the opening credits, but I was a little confused because it's very difficult to start a film.
Yeah.
I feel like starting a film's a lot easier than ending a film because you always know where the film's going to end up. And you have a general idea of how you want to start the film, but you don't exactly know how to go about it. And I think they did an okay job of it. I mean, it was kind of a still image and then him kind of flashing back, flashing forwards, flashing back again. So, yeah. Yeah,
the film was told in a non-linear fashion, and I actually kind of like that because it is an origin story, but you do sort of want to give the audience what they want. You don't want to sort of mess around for the first half hour, 40 minutes of the movie without seeing Deadpool. So it gets straight to that, and then it cuts back to periodic flashbacks narrated by Ryan Reynolds, and I think that worked for the movie. And as I was saying in the spoiler-free section, where if you've seen the test footage, I think that's a neat sort of little prelude to the movie or prologue to the movie, because the opening scene is of that wreckage, which you do see later on in the movie. But I mean, the shots of Deadpool just like giving the goons wedges, and it plays the song "Angel of the Morning," which I was so hoping would make it into the final movie. It was played in the test footage. I love that song to death, and I just thought that perfectly summed up Deadpool. And it played over the opening credits, and I was a happy person. It just like immediately I sat there, I was like, I hope this song makes it into the film. Film starts up, song starts playing. I was like, I'm in for a wild ride with this film. And another one of my favourite jokes as well, just there's so many in this film, is where Deadpool's trying to kill Francis on the highway, and he's trying to fight off Colossus, and he breaks his hand, breaks his other hand, and then breaks his leg, and he's just sort of flopping around awkwardly on the floor. And then he cuts his arm off and says, like, for those of you who've seen 127 Hours, spoiler alert, and he just cuts his arm off. It's just, it was perfect. So perfect. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about in spoilers at all?
I would like to talk about the facility.
Yeah,
probably the darkest part of that film.
It sort of turns into a horror movie, like a body horror movie.
It does.
Yeah.
Really creepy. That could have gone down a dark road there.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I mean, just the villain's just being a complete dick, really. He's locked Deadpool in this chamber, and he's taken his oxygen away so he can't breathe, and just the level of torture that this character has to go through. I mean, you think that Wolverine had a bad rap, where, he was fitted with these tubes and his skeleton was coated in this and claws were coming out of his hand. I mean, that looked bad in X-Men 2. And then you see what Deadpool's had to go through, and you really feel bad for the guy, because this is a guy who just wants to get back to his girl,
Yep.
With comedies, it's really difficult to talk spoilers, because it's just sort of, series of gags after gags. I guess, can we talk about the post-credit scene?
Yes.
Okay, so...
Because I immediately started bursting out laughing. As soon as I saw that room, I thought, do you know what, that's Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
And that is just amazing. And you can't get much, more meta than probably the most famous end credit sequence of all time. you can't get more meta than that, ripping that off.
Yeah.
And I feel like Deadpool now has the title of the world's or greatest ever end credit sequence of all time because it ripped into it so hard.
It's definitely up there without a shadow of a doubt. And I mean, it cuts off at one point and then he comes back in. I knew that they would probably do some kind of reference to the Avengers with Nick Fury coming in at the end of Iron Man 1. And he teases
like,
Cable.
What, are you expecting, a guy with an eye patch?
Yeah. It's like, do you want me to be dressed as Samuel Jackson, like a leather number? And then they tease Cable for the sequel. Now, again, I don't know much about Deadpool's history, but I'm aware that Cable is sort of... It's almost like a Lethal Weapon, Mel Gibson, you know, Danny Glover. It's not Danny Glover, is it? Is it Danny Glover? I'm probably messing that up. I'll cut that out.
Probably.
But it's like a Lethal Weapon relationship where it's just an unlikely duo. They both sort of hate each other but tolerate each other. So that'll be cool for the sequel, and it's nice to see that they're sort of developing this world a lot more with it. And the Stan Lee cameo, of course.
Oh, he is a stripper DJ. Which has to be the best Stan Lee cameo ever.
Oh, I need to find a list of all his cameos and just sort of like rank them at some point, but this is
Keep
without
talking,
a doubt up there.
And I will get one.
I don't know if we should rank them in this video because that would take quite a while, but it's definitely up there.
I've got a list of them. He's been in a lot of them. Oh my god, he's been in 27. We've got one where he was the Amazing Spider-Man one where he's in a library is quite good.
That was pretty good. I like the one in Thor where he's the pickup driver trying to drag the hammer away. That was cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he got a great one in this. What else can we talk about in spoilers? I'm really stretching. I thought we'd have loads to talk about, and it will literally just be a case of us going, and this joke was amazing, and this joke was amazing.
This film, if you are still watching this, go watch it.
Yeah.
We haven't really spoiled much from it. Jesus, the unicorn.
Oh,
what was that?
The animated unicorn. It's the bit where he gets stabbed in the head and then Chicago starts playing. And the soundtrack to this film was incredible. You've got Careless Whisper in there.
No,
as
I'm talking about the unicorn.
Oh, the unicorn appeared in it quite a lot.
I was genuinely expecting a Blade Runner Mick take on the Unicorn Dream.
I
really was, and I feel like in the second film they would do that.
I want these films to get to the stage where, if anyone's a video gamer, the Saints Row franchise.
Yeah.
I want this to just get insane. I want the opening of the next movie to be Ryan Reynolds in the Deadpool costume riding a unicorn over a rainbow to like an epic 80s song or something like that.
Well, in the original comic, he was in a sexual relationship with Death.
Wait, wasn't that Thanos?
No, this was definitely Deadpool.
Oh, but yeah, I've practically said I think everything
I've said all I
can.
Go watch the film, goddammit, and if you have, tell us how much you enjoyed it.
Definitely.
I don't think anyone doesn't like it.
I've actually seen a few reviews where they were like, it was enjoyable, but it wasn't my kind of humour.
But the thing is, they've said it was enjoyable bit at the start.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I would like to see people's thoughts on this because how much it's made already. I think this is definitely shaping up to be probably one of the biggest hitters, definitely in the superhero films we're going to get this year. And I think it does have repeat viewings. I mean, already just talking about this now, I would really love to see this movie
go see
again.
It again.
Yeah. And I guess, is it going up against anything? I guess the next big movie coming out is probably Kung Fu Panda 3 and Batman v Superman. So it's got practically all the rest of this month and half of next month as well.
Yeah.
And who knows? If
it
Batman
could
v
become
Superman,
the highest rated, highest earning R-rated film of all time.
Yeah, and I think when Batman v Superman comes out, that's going to have an initial buzz. But if Deadpool's still playing, and Batman v Superman's just as dreary and depressing as Man of Steel was, then people might go, you know what? we want just a comedy again, and they'll just go back to Deadpool. I think this is going to be a big cult hit as well, and I can't wait to see when the Blu-ray comes out, if they bring out a harder cut or an extended cut or whatever. I just want this movie now. I want to have this movie in my collection.
Yeah.
Time to make the chimichanga.
Have you seen this man?
I never say this, but don't swallow. Shit. Did I leave the stove on?
But yeah, that'll do it for our review on Deadpool. So as we said, be sure to comment and let us know what you thought of the movie. Be sure to hit subscribe as well, because we're bringing you loads more reviews all throughout the rest of this year, and our big push towards Oscar season. We've got a few more films to review that are going to be the big hitters at the Oscars, and we've also got our live stream. We'll have details for that close to the time, but it will be on the night of the Oscars, which is the 28th of February, sort of going into the 29th as well, because we're in the UK. We'll figure out times and everything like that, and it's going to be fun. There'll be games and everything like that.
It'll be
talking
good.
Films and having a blast. Absolutely. So, our Facebook and Twitter links are in the description. Follow those. We'll have details and all stuff like that, and we'll see you in the next review. So until next time, thanks for listening.